In the meantime, back in Washington, the White House press corps will be doing its annual correspondents' dinner. All of this part of the fodder for our conversation with MSNBC political analyst and Daily Beast columnist Jonathan Alter from New York. Senior writer for Newsweek, Bill Powell, is with me here in Washington. And MSNBC political analyst and host of the Hugh Hewitt Show, Hugh Hewitt, joining me from California. Thanks to all of you. Jonathan, I want to start with you because I'm looking at that ribbon project. And I'm thinking, first of all, it's very pretty. And I do think that people, at least as I've been out traveling the country, 4 different states this week alone, they feel like, Democrats feel like they need to have a way to get out the anger, the frustration, the feelings that they have. But how does the Democratic Party, how do progressive organizations turn that into something more than a pretty art project?
Well, I think it's all about political organizing. The protests are helpful in maintaining some energy, but the real question is what happens in November of 2018 and November of 2020. And you can't start to work on that just a couple months earlier. It has to be a, 24/7 effort by Democrats. And what we don't know about the Democrats is whether their energy can stay high, whether they can do the hard work of organizing at the state and local level, or whether they just want to go and let off some steam at these demonstrations.
Bill, is there any sign that this is actually turning into something more tangible? We know that there are progressive organizations, I'm thinking about the ACLU, for example, that have gotten a big uptick in donations. We know that there are some groups that say people are joining, but to the point that Jonathan made, which is maybe the first big test will be the midterm elections, is there any sign that this activism is turning into something more tangible?
Not as yet, not as far as I can see. I think this is a party motivated by anger, but it's got to find a message beyond anger. If you can fill in the blank, what does the Democratic Party stand for? What is its economic agenda? I don't think people know. I don't.
And I wonder, on the other side, Hugh, if there is any concern that there will be, for the Democrats, sort of a coming together of how all of this activism that we're seeing, the people marching in the streets, the people joining organizations. Should the Republicans be worried that in some ways this president has awakened a sleeping beast?
They ought to be worried about 2018 simply because it's an off-year election and the party that holds the White House typically does very badly in such an election. But Democrats didn't win the Kansas 4th. They didn't win the first round in the Georgia 6. It's unlikely they'll win the second round in the Georgia 6. I think they have a lot of structural problems on the Democratic Party which go into how old its leadership is and how ossified its idea set are. However, as Paul Ryan warned the Republicans this week, if the Republicans don't deliver on repeal and replacement of Obamacare, if they don't deliver a tax cut, they will have broken promises that are very, very high in the mind of the average voter in a midterm election. Donald Trump has been delivering a lot of what he promised. He's reversed where he ought to have reversed on, say, China and DACA, NATO and NAFTA. But it's really about whether or not the House Republicans can get their act together quickly enough to deliver on the legislative agenda that people are waiting on.
Chris.
And is the second half of that, Jonathan Alter, that at some point there has to be a clear leader of the Democratic Party? And it's interesting, again, as I talk to Democrats around the country, there's 2 mindsets of Barack Obama. One is people who are frustrated with him, that they haven't heard more. They heard him say last December, if he feels that certain core values are threatened, he will speak up. They think that that's already happened. There are others who say, we need to find new leadership. We need to hear fresh voices here. We need to get people who can organize us. Where do you think that's going?
Well, I don't think it's essential for the Democrats to have one leader right now. As Obama himself said in the 2008 campaign, we are the ones we've been waiting for. People put too much faith in Obama to deliver them, to wave some kind of magic wand. They have to do the hard work themselves. But I disagree that anger is the only message here from the Democrats. They're playing defense, and they're playing it pretty effectively in the first 100 days in protecting the core achievements of the Obama administration. They have not been rolled back in the way that Trump promise. Now, the Democrats are not so great at framing the issues properly. They need work on that front, but they don't have to unify around a new leader. That's what presidential elections are for, and they can mount a stiff resistance, as they're already doing in Kansas and Georgia. Those were overwhelmingly Republican districts where all the energy in those special elections was on the Democratic side. And I don't think it's at all clear that John Ossoff, the Democrat, won't win in the 6th district of Georgia. He's well ahead right now in the polls.
All right, Jonathan, Alter, Bill